Horror Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we will talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Bloody, boat liquor, Belgium, thunderation, gosh all Potomac.
Consider yourselves warned.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we discuss the Rocky Horror Picture Show 1 minute at a time in excruciating detail. My name is Kelly Hansen.
And I'm Leandra Lynn.
Together we are both members of the cast, the Sonic Transducers in DC, although this is not an official Sonic Transducers project.
It sure isn't.
So we're here to talk about minute 1 of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. To be clear, we're discussing the Blu-ray disc version, which is especially going to come into play towards the end when there is a scene that is not included in every version of the film. So this is going to be a 1 hour, 40-minute runtime altogether. So, but minute 1 is probably the same in every version of the movie.
One would hope, unless you have one of those VHSs where your dad started it a little bit late and it starts like at Hot Patootie. We're not using that version.
All right. Well, Leandra, do you want to tell us what happened in this minute?
Oh, yeah. Lots of fun stuff happened. It starts with kind of the classic 20th Century Fox fanfare. It's not special for Rocky Horror. It's just exactly what it would be normally. And then we have some silence for a bit. Then we've got some lips, the classic lips from Rocky Horror, and they start singing to us about different science fiction themes and movies. And this one goes up through Fay Wray.
Right. It cuts off mid-sentence, so it's kind of a cliffhanger for minute 2. We'll find out what went wrong with Fay Wray in the next minute. But so the lyrics we hear so far are, Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still, but he told us where we stand, and Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. Claude Rains was the invisible man. Then something went wrong for Fay Wray. So that's what we've heard so far. What are we thinking about this minute, Leandra?
It's definitely the part of the movie that I get the most excited for. Just kidding. That's the end. But I really love the start of it. You see the lips come in, and I don't know, for me, watching it the first time in a theater, I was like, oh, this is really cool. The lips are huge. So it's definitely exciting for me.
Yeah, I would say I know Patricia Quinn's teeth better than any other actress because I've watched her mouth and teeth so many times at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, good on her for not having like broccoli or anything in there. That would be just really kind of messy.
How do we feel about the whole lips thing? Because the original plan that Richard O'Brien had for this opening scene, as I'm sure you know, was to play clips from the movies that are being discussed, which are all like classic science fiction movies. And basically the production designer, Brian Thompson, nixed that and I guess instead wanted to do giant lips, it's actually a reference to a Man Ray painting of some lips over a landscape. It's called, I'm going to butcher the French, but it's called À l'heure de l'observatoire les amoureux.
Ooh, sexy.
I'm a Spanish speaker mostly, but so anyway, the lips are iconic, but would we have preferred the science fiction clips?
I mean, that's hard to say because, I don't know, the lips are so iconic within Rocky now. Is it entertaining for an entire movie? Probably not, but it definitely sets the tone for this specific movie.
Right. I think I gave a lot of thought to this, and I think that, you know, if I remove all of my nostalgia and all of the intense feelings I had about Rocky Horror the first time I saw it, I think that I probably would have enjoyed watching the clips more from the movie, but it also wouldn't have stayed with me or become an iconic scene of the movie the way that the lips have.
Oh, for sure. There are a couple of fun things about those lips. The song was originally sung by the usherette, who often played Magenta in the Rocky Horror Show. That was certainly how it started. And Magenta, of course, is Patricia Quinn. She originated the role. And when she found out that she wasn't going to be the one singing the song for the movie, she was pretty irritated, kind of considered whether or not this was a project worth doing. Because if you think about it, it's not like Magenta has a whole lot going on as far as lines, and science fiction double feature, that is just such a great song. And if you take that away from somebody, it definitely sucks. So then later on, she goes, okay, well, who is it that you got to sing the song? And there's a bit of silence. And she found out that it was Richard O'Brien, and she just said, you bastard. So after they scrapped the idea for having the different clips of the movies for this piece of this movie, they had run out of money, and they asked Patricia Quinn if she wanted to be the lips. And she's like, yeah, I will do that. So this was as close as she could get to singing her song in this film. And honestly, I think that she is just so cool.
Yeah, weird choice for it to be Richard O'Brien.
Well,
yeah, I mean, if it's your movie, I guess it's a choice you would make. But I don't know. He definitely has an interesting, strange voice, so it does lend a different quality to the opening song.
Yeah, and if you've ever heard the original soundtrack, or the Roxy, I guess, rather, Patricia Quinn has a completely different tone to it, so maybe they were going for a little less of a, like, I don't want to say 1950s feel.
Yeah.
It was very bubbly and usherette style.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one, but I've heard the original Broadway cast many times, and it's very different. Like you say, it's much more up-tempo, and just generally, like you said, bubbly is a good word for it.
And definitely not easy to strip to, which I'm sure that was in their minds right from the beginning.
That actually is one of the questions I had for you, since, as we know, live shadowcasts, usually during this song, there is a character named Trixie who is performing sort of a burlesque striptease routine, but people get very creative with this. I was going to ask, since you've done Rocky Horror for such a long time, you've probably seen some memorable Trixie routines. Is there one?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the first Trixie routine that I ever saw. It was this cast, and their format for Trixie was to have these stuffed lips that the Trixie would hold and move, so that she looked literally like the lips. And then when they were frozen on the screen, she'd put them down and then do a bit of a sexy dance. And I was thrown into Magenta like super last minute, hadn't thought about it. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And then they said, by the way, you're also Trixie, have fun. And I was not prepared. And it was great when I could just use the lips to lip sync. But as far as sexy dancing, that's not necessarily my forte.
Gotta love those last minute Trixies.
Yep.
Like, oh, that bitch didn't show up. Gotta get out there. The other is I had some notes about the science fiction references in the lyrics too. Mm-hmm. Of course, Michael Rennie played an alien named Klaatu in The Day the Earth Stood Still. So that's the first reference. In terms of him being ill, I believe that was a stretch for a rhyme. He gets killed at the end, which I guess is what they're referring to. Yeah. Yeah, Michael Rennie was killed, I guess would have worked, but he gets revived, and then I guess when he tells us where we stand, that's him basically telling Earth that they have to stop any hints of violence or they're going to be obliterated by the race of robots that have taken over intergalactic law enforcement, basically. So super subtle Cold War atomic bomb vibes, basically, because he literally says, like, Earth will just be completely obliterated if there's any more violence or war. And then the other two are a little more basic. Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. Claude Rains was the Invisible Man. It doesn't get more straightforward than that. So that's pretty much all I had for discussion of the minute. I was going to ask, since this is our first episode, if you remember the first time you ever watched the movie.
I don't know that I remember the first time that I watched it at home, but it was a thing that I did every Halloween as a kid. And we did the time warp, and it was great, and I had no idea what was going on, but it was bright and fun. And then at some point, I went, wait, that lady's corset fell down, and you can see her boobs. And then my parents said, maybe we don't watch Rocky for a little bit. But when I first saw it live with a shadow cast, I had just had knee surgery, and I was feeling like kind of weird and gross because as a teen, I was like, ugh, I can't really do anything that other teens are doing right now. And my dad took me to see Rocky, and it was just it was a bunch of other weirdos and people who maybe didn't fit in, and I immediately keyed off of it. What about you?
Yeah, I had an instant reaction to seeing the movie. When I was a kid, and obviously that's continued to this day, but I really connected with anything campy or just kind of strange in that way. So I remember finding the DVD at my dad's girlfriend's house and watching it because I was bored. And I distinctly remember that I didn't understand any of the jokes, didn't really understand what was happening, but I was obsessed with it. And I watched it over and over and over. And I didn't understand a lot of the jokes and references for years, but I had a similar reaction the first time I watched Eraserhead. I didn't know what was going on, but I watched it over and over. So I guess that anything like that would really capture my attention. And then it wasn't until I was in college, I think, that I saw my first Shadowcast. But by then I was completely obsessed with the movie and the soundtrack and everything.
I don't know if my dad knew that he was really putting me on this track to do Rocky for the rest of my life, and I certainly don't know what he would do if he did have that information. But pretty much right after the first time that I saw it, I became a regular. So since 15 or 16, I've been seeing Rocky or performing in Rocky.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of segues into the other thing I wanted to go over, which was whether there are any audience participation moments in this first minute.
Oh, for sure. These are the fun ones. If people have been to Rocky a couple of times, these are kind of the first ones that they'll remember and start doing with the regulars. Starting with the fanfare, there's 20th Century Fucks You, and I don't know. I just love that one. It really sets us up for lampooning this. And then a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, and I guess we could talk about Star Wars Minute with that. But it's a slightly different podcast.
Yeah, all respect to Star Wars Minute. I definitely got this idea from them. So if you're a Star Wars fan, please check out that podcast. You won't regret it.
Oh yeah, it's really great.
But so anyway, yeah, then so there's a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, there were some lips, yada yada.
Yeah.
And then basically it's just riffing off the lyrics from there, right?
Yeah. So where he told us, or I guess then he told us to fuck off.
Yeah.
Where we stand on our feet. And then the people in the back are supposed to go on your knees. It's you have callbacks to callbacks. It gets a little convoluted, but that's kind of what I love about this. And then there, kind of a similar one is the Claude Rains is the Invisible Man. How the fuck do you see him?
Yeah,
I felt for him.
I've never heard anyone say the felt for him part.
Oh, anytime I'm in the seats, I start just throwing out any of the random oldies but goodies that I've heard over the years.
I have always said that I love when you do callbacks because I learned so many great ones that our regulars or other people that I know haven't done. So,
and there are a lot of regional ones. Rocky Horror has been around long enough and has enough people performing it around the country, around the world, that you get things that become very specific to regions. So anytime I hear somebody come from another state, from another country over to our show, I hear weird fun ones that I'm like, oh, that's going in my back pocket.
All right, well, so that's about all I had for this minute. Did you have anything else, Leandra?
Really, the only thing I wanted to throw out was just the different versions of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. We've already talked about how the Blu-ray is a little bit different, but that's because it has the UK version of the film, which includes superheroes at the end. If you have the opportunity to select between US and UK, really the major difference with that is whether or not superheroes is included. So always click the UK version when you have a chance. The Blu-ray also has some re-engineered music, and it can be very jarring for people who have only listened to the soundtrack, or maybe they've only watched this on their dad's VHS, and it can be a little bit weird to hear the differences, and we'll try and go over those as they come up.
Yeah, in general, the soundtrack sounds completely different from the movie, and when I first started doing shadow casting, that was one of the first things I had to get used to, because I was used to practicing and singing along to the songs with the soundtrack.
Yep.
Some of the songs are super different, so...
I think that's about all that I have for this first minute. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time for minute 2.
I'm on the edge of my seat. So I guess we'll close it out the way that we close out our shows. So
which is now you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So get the fuck out. This is really great when it's recorded and there's a little bit of a buffer.